Hello and welcome to another Shared Screens review. I'll be your host. I remembered to say it. My name is Austin. Hello. We are reviewing Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp today. Our lead reviewer will be Alec Bobko. How you doing, Alec?
Doing great today.
And in the jury, as they say, we have Brett, Jim Tasty. How you doing, Brett?
Reporting for duty.
I mean, that's pretty on brand for the jury. Not exactly what he's going for, but I think it's in line. Then we also have Jordan Deeb. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing good. You guys should all be happy. I'm not a real general.
I don't know how to take that.
Same.
Are you just like ruthless? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I suck.
That's the game. That's kind of how I was taking it.
That's fair. That's fair. As someone who like fairly newly dipped his toe into this game, it's a lot harder and a lot more in depth than I expected.
Just turn out to casual.
I was on casual.
Oh no!
So
I can't help it. Then.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So, like I said, we are reviewing Reboot Camp today, a game that was supposed to come out. What was the initial release date for this? Like
I
a
don't think
year
we
and a
ever got
half
a
ago or something
date.
like that.
It was like March of 2022.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And then it rightfully so got pushed because of real events going on that kind of were too close to what this game is portraying. So it came out. When did this game come out? What was the actual release date for this title?
I believe it was last
14th.
Friday. Yeah.
Last Friday. Okay. I could have done research on that.
21st.
I didn't.
21st. Sorry.
21st. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
April
You're picking up
21st.
my slack. I appreciate it.
14th was Mega Man Battle Network. A lot of Game Boy Advance coming to the Switch this month.
Dude, I'll see it on the eShop, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is good to see these classic titles kind of like shining on the eShop. I
For
do
sure.
agree. But I wanted to ask those questions because like it got pushed a year, and I'm curious. I do want to ask the question just at the top of the panel for everyone. Do we think it being pushed a year affected how people react to this game once they got their hands on? I know it got rightfully pushed, and I agree that it should have been pushed. But you think the wait added any negative or positive effects to it? Anyone?
For me, like not really, because what's been in the game has been in the game. This weird dichotomy of like child commanders of these real wars in this world are like, it's very odd. It works though for me, but like it's very odd. But I do know like a lot of other reviewers were like, yeah, it feels different, and not only because of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, but like just everything over the last 20 years since, or not 20 years. Oh yeah, 20 years.
Yeah.
Roughly, since
2001, 2003.
Yeah, since all those games came out. So yeah, it definitely feels like that, but it's always kind of been there. So
Okay.
I don't know.
That's fair. Anyone else have a difference of opinion, or are you kind of in line with Brett?
I feel it was more like I get why they did this type of, because like I feel like if Nintendo had pushed it silently, or it pushed it and said, oh, production issues, whatever, I feel like now I wouldn't turn the game on and look for meaning in it. I feel like I'm kind of putting myself in the mindset of when the events first happened last year, like, and I'm imagining like 3 weeks after, Russia invades Ukraine, turning on this game where it is the first boss or the first person you're fighting is very much a Russia-based country character. His name is Olaf. Their power up is the snow, and it's kind of like when you look at media that like had something about explosions or planes flying through cities that like really close to 9/11, and how all those projects got pulled or changed last minute. Because I knew it was delayed because of the war, I put that lens back on, and I could see that it would have been bad timing last year.
Sure. Alec, any thoughts on that?
Yep. I couldn't have said it better than either of those guys. So
Kind of right in line. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought it was something worth bringing up, at least at the top, in this kind of like casual way where we're talking about it getting pushed, and how like I said, I think it was right. It was right to push it. I was just wondering if it had any effects on the review as a title. So I think our consensus is not really. It's just it was definitely pushed for a good reason.
It was pushed for a good reason, but I kind of wish it wouldn't have been so close to 2 games that I've been looking forward to for so long. Because now I'm just kind of like, Advance Wars is a game where you can pick up and put down, as much as you can. So it's like I'm not like hurt that it came out so close to Survivor and Tears of the Kingdom, but at the same time, it's like it would have been nice to have a bit more time with it.
Sure. So it got pushed a decent, like a good enough length, but that length just happened to end at a bad time. Is what you're getting at, timing wise. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I do want to just kick it off here. Brett, you started us off with that, so let's start with your like surface level thoughts of the game. Picking it up, you said like 20 years later.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the remake is great. The The OST I think is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely a great evolution from the original like chip tunes that we had back in the day. With the graphics, initially I was like, "Oh, this is such a downgrade." Now I'm like, "It's good, but it's not better." Like I don't mind the graphics. I think the anime cell shaded design for like the characters and everything like that is great. Every time I boot up the game, I get so stoked because of that like little animation they play.
Mhm.
But like the on field assets are good. I just like the pixel art way better. But yeah, all the quality of life updates are great. Being able to like reset a turn, stuff like that, I think is nice. I don't think you could do that in the original. But yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, I can't wait to play more. I've never beaten these games, and I'm gonna beat them
Ooh.
because they're still tough. They're still kind of
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
Like I'm getting my ass handed to me. I'm like, I'm gonna do this move, and then like they're waiting right around the corner, and they just blast me to bits with like a
I
rocket
do
launcher or something.
I do, as someone who's never played the original, they were, I mean, Advance Wars. I assume they're Game Boy Advance titles. Is
Hmm.
that okay?
Yeah,
As someone who's never seen that art style, I really enjoy this art style. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying this cell shaded anime look. Like I really dig that. And then you saying it's hard. I completely agree it's hard, but when I lose, it feels real. Like it feels
oh yeah,
genuine in a way. Like I fucked up. Not like the game is screwing me over. Like you totally just introduced that thing a little bit ago, and then I just completely forgot about it because I was stuck in my head on like my own tactics. Like I think the game is hard, but it doesn't feel unnecessarily like I don't like it. It's not jipping you at all. I feel like it's on the player when you lose for the most part. I've only played for like 3 or 4 hours, so going into it, I think the farthest I've got is I just did like the second mission with like the green people.
yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, that's how far as I got. But I think the difficulty is it feels right while also tough. It feels right, and then the cell shaded look I really dig. So
yeah.
Jordan, what are your surface level thoughts?
So just for a bit of context and backstory, it was in the middle of a shared screens meeting that I kind of found the magic that is Advanced Wars because it was announced and I was like, "What is this? Why is everyone hype over it?" And it
I
was
remember
Alec
this.
and Brett. They were like, "You gotta try it out. It's really fun." And
Mhm.
so Game Boy Advance. I think a pregnancy test could emulate those at this point. So like new tab, on in browser GBA emulator, and was kind of playing during the meeting. I was like, "Okay, I get it now." And then that same week, I used that ROM as like test when I did a custom firmware on my 3DS. So I played through it more, but I was only kind of going through the trainings, like getting really into the nitty gritty and stuff. And so I'm back here. And so I'm not somebody who played as a child, but I've like experienced the OGs somewhat. And I think that this game, like as bad as I am at it, very fun. I feel like it's for some reason the only style of this game that I could see myself playing. I don't necessarily see myself doing a Final Fantasy Tactics or a Fire Album emblem.
Fire Album.
Fire Album, yeah.
That album's fire. It's so good.
When the album's just really good, Uh, but so and I'm kind of where you are, where a lot of the losses do feel like, oh, I see what I should have done. I should have done, and that's happened a couple times. There was one in particular where it was a 40 turn round between
Dude,
me and the other country, and it was basically like who can pump out more tanks faster. And I just had to find the rhythm and accept that they were going to be faster than me at first, but that eventually the numbers would catch up and do more if I just stuck through it. And that one felt like fulfilling, and I did it. But now I'm stuck on one where I'm like, and they're giving you hints. They're like, you should try doing this on the second day and make sure they don't cross the bridge. And like with it, by every time I try it, by turn 2, they've crossed the fucking bridge.
I know you're missing you're talking about because I got my dudes right up to the bridge and like kind of like
The problem
clogged
is
it
there's
up.
2 bridges, and so I'm trying to defend them both. And I know that like the whole war on 2 fronts thing, I've learned that lesson. Call me Napoleon. I learned why you can't do that playing this game. But with this particular mission, it really looks like you have to because you start with just so many less units of every kind than they do, and they're like, no, you got to buy more. I'm like, but you guys don't have any places for me to like occupy to get more money, so I'm just stuck making a minor more because there's 2 buildings near me, and after that, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did a mission similar to that where the building you're supposed to take over like the enemy fortress or whatever. I don't know terminology.
Yeah.
HQ.
it was like a ways away, and I had one of those like helicopter carrier things, and I lost the helicopter carrier like the first move. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah,
And I
that's
should I
always the
should have I
worst.
should have just restarted. I didn't. I stuck that shit out.
Oh,
Went like 37 turns, beat his ass. I was like, yeah, like eat it. Like I got a D, but I
yeah.
was like, you know what? I stuck to it and I won. So ha, joke's on you.
Sometimes I'll stick through it. I do like the reset turn option. Brett, you said that might have not been in the original, so good thing to add it. I just wish that instead of reset turn, there was like an undo, like a Control Z, where I don't want to
yeah.
reset the whole
Like,
turn. It's just, oh, I move this guy a square too far or close for what I want.
That's one thing that I wish they added in this game, because you can either reset a turn, which again, sometimes turns can take 15 minutes or something if you're really like trying to stress
late in the
and focus.
campaign.
Yeah. Or you give up entirely. You have to start all over. So there is. I've come across that gray area a couple times where I'm like I don't see like the mistake I'm gonna make in 4 turns. You know what I mean? And so
You made a mistake that turn.
yeah, that like cascaded, and then I'm like, oh man, if I could just rotate 4 turns back instead of just a 1, yeah. So that's like the one thing I wish they would have added.
I think just kind of going into that, like I think that would have been if it was like still like the pixel art graphics, and if it was just like more so a port rather than a remake, I could see them having something like that.
Yeah.
I can also see them, rightfully so, not having that in like the harder difficulty. Like, not you fucked
for
up.
sure.
Like,
That's
but if
why
you're
I
playing
didn't
on
see
classic
it,
or whatever,
because
like, okay,
I don't remember seeing the reset turn option.
sure.
I could just be blind though. So
It's in
the gear,
yeah, the little gear when you click the start menu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found
so
that right away
option?
because I
I
messed
did
up
not.
like immediately. And
Maybe it's just because I'm used to Advance Wars. I haven't played that since I was a kid. So I mean, I haven't played in a while, but it's just one of those that I just you make a mistake, that's
you live with
that's it.
This game is teaching lessons, all right?
Oh yeah,
life
seriously.
lessons.
Their blood is on your hands. Sorry, too deep.
No, I mean it's true.
I do have one question before we get into Alex's lead thoughts here, but we brought up the difficulty and how it feels right, and I think that's credit to the devs. Like even like the older game, like when you do mess up, it does genuinely feel like it's on you. For those who have played the older game, did it feel like does this feel like it's just a newer version of that game in terms of difficulty, or did they rework a lot of that?
Yeah, I think so in the original the CPU COs could like see where you were through the fog of war. That was like one of the big annoying things, because you'd be like, oh, I can't see this guy over here, I'm gonna move. Oh, there's a tank right there, and he positioned it ready to attack you. I believe they've changed that, although I have come a couple of times where like I'm in the fog of war, I just move this guy and there's like a enemy dude right there perfectly ready to pounce on me. So I don't know, but I think they have molded it a little bit to make it a little more fair in this day and age, because that was something that was rough in the originals.
I guess my follow-up to that is like the originals, did they also feel like they had a good difficulty, or were they just simply harder for the time, like just because it was older?
I mean, it didn't have, as to my knowledge, I don't believe there was a difficulty like setting. It was that. So but to your, like you said or had said, like when you lost, you for the most part could be like, okay, I know I made this mistake this turn, or like this is where I went wrong.
And that persisted in the original as well. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yep, that's what I'm cool.
Cool. Fantastic.
But,
so oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's just like a lot of older games, they're just hard for the sake of, you had to buy that, you bought a game, that was the game, or that you bought, you're stuck with it.
Yeah, back in the day, they had to make games a little harder to like extend their life, like their shelf life for like how long you can play them, because they can't just like send an update like they can nowadays to add more content. So I completely understand. Before I hand over the reins to Alec to give us his impressions and the full length review here, I do want to remind viewers that if you like what you see and you want to see more of it, please subscribe to Shared Screens, like what you find on TikTok, Twitter, share that stuff, all that helps, and it counts towards us growing. So thank you very much. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Alec, take it away.
Yeah, so like I said, this is one of those franchises, or it's actually the game. I played with or one kid that was on my school bus. He was actually the one person who introduced me to this game and honestly this genre, because I was never really into the turn-based strategy games before this. And I don't know what it was, if it was just we were on the bus forever together, so we just kept playing it and just really liked it, and just really fell in love with this genre, at least this art style, because it was that cool thing of like in really, because it did give you the good intro to turn-based strategy, and with good tutorials as well, which this game does bring back. But like, what's really cool is that you are able to skip the tutorials if you don't want to sit through them, like maybe somebody did here.
I don't think they let you just full on skip them, but I just like mashed that shit as hard as I could, and I was just like, I'm gonna, not actually read any of this.
I went
Even
through
when the
them.
lady popped up and was like,
I
even
went
when
through
like
them as
later on,
well.
and she was like, "Hello," I'm like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like I will learn this the hard way, and this is completely my fault. But like, that's how I play video games, unless I'm like completely just utterly lost. So
Yeah, and I went through them just because it has been, 10, 15 years since I played these games. So I'm like, in case they did change something up, I just want to go through it. But yeah, this game, honestly, it was a little hard to review just because they didn't really change too much from the original games. So it's more like kind of reviewing it more based on the remake itself rather than the original games, because those games were the games.
Mhm.
Um,
It's always a little tricky to review a remake in general, even if they do change a lot.
mhm,
It's like how do I approach this certain aspects? Yeah.
exactly. And like even I said in my the social clip video, the 60-second review, like these games, back in 2000, the early 2000s, they were already like 8.5, nines. Some people even gave these tens. Like they were critically acclaimed games. So it's like these are already good games. They're just making the art style new and fresh, giving it a banger of a soundtrack. Like there's times I just left my Switch on, just doing stuff around my apartment, just listen to that soundtrack.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's really cool modes. Like they have, the campaign, which, you play both of them. That's anywhere from 40 to 60 hours combined. You have the versus and war room maps, which you can unlock more of them via the shop, which it's in-game currency. You don't have any downloadable stuff. And then you also have the map designer, which I spent a little bit of time with, and I loved. I just gotta give a shout out to Way Forward on this. They made a great map designer because it is just so simple that anybody can create a map.
Yeah.
Is that what you like? If there was a map creator and other things, so do you usually dabble in that, or is it just this one's that good?
This one's that good because I remember
Okay.
dabbling in it in the original one, and I just it's one of those things that I won't say like get super deep into them, but I'll at least turn the mode on and like test it out.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is just a really fun game, really good remake. Enjoyed my time with this game, and can definitely see myself coming back to it whenever the game releases slow down a bit.
Yeah. And we already mentioned how like it is very pick up and play. So like it is catered
Yeah.
towards that. And like you said at the top of the show, like it kind of came out at a bad time because like right on the horizon now we have other big titles to review. So I totally understand that. I do have to let my dogs out here 1 second, but I do want to say like they changed the art style. It's drastically different. Would you say it's drastically different, or they just like made it
Yeah,
modern? Okay, okay, okay.
it's dressed because like you had the pixel art back
Yeah.
then. I did see it was interesting. I think it was Digital Foundry that did it side by side. Comparing the Game Boy Advance art style to the Switch art style, and like honestly, that Game Boy Advance art style really holds up.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, do they even have like a different color palette? Are they like leaning into any like anything different, or is it just completely different?
I would. It's more like cartoony, I guess.
Okay.
Like I don't know.
I guess.
You can more see it with like the infantry and the mech units.
Oh, okay. That's fair. I guess I'm only asking because I think this is like one of the prettiest games on Switch, and just
Mhm.
because I like especially handheld because I have an OLED Switch. Yes, I'm bragging a little bit.
Mhm.
I love my OLED Switch. Like I really like that screen. So like normally when I will
Yeah.
play games on the TV, sometimes I'll just pop it out just to look at it, just to see how it is, and I'll sit down and play
Mhm.
like a match or a round or whatever. And I think it looks really, really, really good. I am gonna go let my dogs out. I'll be right back. They keep whining. So someone ask a question. It'd be great. I'm sure you'll carry the show just fine.
Yeah. So for me, I actually played both docked and handheld just to give it a try. Because, as good as the soundtrack is, it does, at least in the earlier missions, get a bit repetitive because you're only using the same COs every so often. You're only going up against the same COs. So it's like after about missions 5, 6, 7, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to put a podcast on, put a stream on, just kind of chill. And I use my fixture S1 with the Pro controller and use that and just kind of chill on my couch while having that on. And both in docked and in handheld, I didn't notice any like performance issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been running fine for me. I also, I've been mainly playing it handheld, but I did do it docked, and docked has this like feeling to it I can't explain, where you get to kind of zoom out a bit, view the whole map on whatever side your TV is, kind of really get a good look at it rather than this little thing. Like it really makes you feel like you're like in those like movies where they have like the battlefield on a map on a table. Like it feels like the future version of that when
like
you
Count
have
Dooku.
it docked. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Somehow you always find a way.
I want to shout out Way Forward. Obviously, they're a well-credentialed developer. I really think they did a good job with this remake because, and I've said this so many times to so many people, because I'm like, we haven't gotten a new one of these in 15 years. If this one doesn't, do gangbusters, like it's going to go the way of F-Zero. It's going to go the way of, Star Fox, I guess, a little bit. Like, so I'm really glad they knocked it out of the park. And again, to the people who made the soundtrack, Maddie, Lim, Michaela Nachtigal, and Tommy Pedrini. Awesome job. Awesome job.
Seriously.
He probably butchered some of those names. I apologize on his behalf.
I did, yes.
Names are tough.
If we can just get that soundtrack on like music streaming services, that would be
great. Vinyl or that'd be sweet.
I mean, I'd buy it on vinyl, honestly. Yeah. It's that good. It is that good.
Any shining aspects someone wants to shout out? I don't know what you guys talked about in my absence. So.
We just talked about performance because I talked about how I played in docked and handheld, and both held up great.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I do wish, like, I know it is a Switch, but I wish we could get some 60 FPS. Like that's me.
Yeah, that's one of the odd things about this game is like, because Digital Foundry brought it up in their like breakdown, and not that this game like needs that, because when I've been playing it, like I haven't noticed like any sluggishness, because it's not like this like quick input game, right? You're taking your time, you're hitting A, and then the battle plays out, stuff like that. It's just odd that the Switch couldn't get 60 out of this game, because again, it looks great, but it's still like, I don't know, I feel like they could have done it, because it's like what, 1080p docked. It's like I think it's full resolution on both formats of docked and undocked.
Possibly. So. I know because to get some B-roll for the other review, the social review that I did, when I brought it onto the PC, it said it was 1280 by 720, but I don't know if that's something with bringing it over from the Switch to PC.
Yeah. No, that's it's full resolution on docked and on undocked. So 720 and 1080, on both formats. But it's just 30 FPS, which is kind of weird because, like, I don't know, I feel like I could do 60.
You get the fast forward button. Same thing.
That's nice. That's nice.
That is, I will say, you were talking about bright spots. That is a great one, because I don't believe that was in the original game.
No. Although I'm one of those weirdos, I like to see the whole battle play out every time, like the whole way through.
It's definitely better. Like if I'm really getting my ass kicked, I'm like, all right, stop fast forwarding to you losing half your men. Like look and see what they're doing and try to figure out, what you did wrong or what opening you left in. But when I'm like, oh, I've got this, it's just quick fast forward. In the options, there is the option of like turn off the animation of the actual people or vehicles moving, and then also turn off the action animation, or turn off both.
Capture.
I wish there was like turn off one or both, for just the enemy side. You know what I mean? Like with my enemy, I would want to see them move, but I don't necessarily need to see the animation. It's for both. So like you could
gotcha.
You could do your turns and then turn it on and then turn it back off before you do your turn and then turn it back, But you can't just say, "Hey, I want to see my people kick ass." But when they're doing stuff to me, just fast forward, just skip that.
Yeah.
That's not how war is, Jordan. All right.
I'll just turn something else on.
All right. So, before we get to Alex's score, unless you already said that, I don't think you did.
I have not.
Okay. Any last thoughts on the game as a whole, or just it being a remake, that kind of stuff, that kind of aspect?
Yeah. Hope we get Dual Strike.
Yes.
Either as like the DS game. So there's 4 Advance Wars games. These are the GBA ones. There's 2 on the Nintendo DS. Hope we get Dual Strike. I haven't played Days of Ruin. That's like the one I've never played. It's a little bit different, like tone and vibe and stuff like that. That's more like Wars, like really like War is Heck kind of thing. Yeah. So, but I heard it's still good. Hope we get or Days of Ruin or both, like another like 2-pack. I think would be great. I love the voice acting. I wish it was fully voice acted, but again,
was gonna be one of mine. Yeah.
But then again, it's the GBA, so I'm sure it's like this in Mega Man Battle Network where they make that little like boop 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 like while the text is like going by. Like that's kind of still like a vibe too.
At the same time, though, like that was more ports, whereas this was a full-on remake. Yeah. So they had some lines that were voiced, but not every single line. So it's like, why make that decision?
So, I'm not even mad. Oh, sorry, Brett. You could go.
Oh, yes. Like sometimes they'll have like the full line voice acted, usually like when someone gets introduced or like the beginning of a battle. Sometimes they'll say like the first 2 or 3 words and then it kind of beep boops away. Yep. Or sometimes it's none. Because the voice acting is great. Like,
oh yeah.
Like I love Grit whenever he talks because he's kind of like a cowboy type character, and he always cracks you up with what he says and stuff like that. So
maybe a spoiler. Did they tease that like Grit and someone else had a thing?
Yeah, Grit and Nell.
Yeah, well, because Grit was originally part of the
Orange Star.
Orange Star.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah. Thank you for that, Jordan. God. Again, I'm only like 3.5, 4 hours in, so like. And a few missions ago, she was like weird about something, and
that plays out like over the campaign. Again, I haven't played these in forever, but I'm like halfway, 2/3 through the first game, and so there's more developments with that and why everyone's doing what they're doing. And I like the way the story plays out too. It's like it's pretty simple, but there is some nuance, kind of like what you said, Austin, behind the scenes of like there's established relationships with a lot of these folks. Again, kind of that dichotomy of like real war, real like geopolitics, and then it's like like a 15-year-old mechanic.
Yeah, but they're also children, so
leading like a military force. So it's weird, but I don't know. I love it. He
has a great ability. I'll say, like
he's bored. Like he's like the like Mario, like. But that's why
he's the most balanced.
That's why I like him, because he can heal people. I love that too.
Yeah.
But man, Max punching through with those tanks.
Dude.
Oh my gosh.
I was surprised because first time I used Max in this, I didn't like. I knew his power up buffed like direct combat units, but I used his power up and it buffed up the subs.
Yeah. Well, so this is like a little in the weeds, but like they kept this in the new game, which some people don't like it, some people do like it, but like in Advance Wars 1, Max is like crazy buffed. Like it's like 150% damage with his tanks, which is just
like that,
which is just like nuts. Like I mean, if you play with Max, you hit him with like a medium tank or whatever, they are like hurting. I think in Advance Wars 2, it's 120. They kind of nerfed him a little bit.
Yeah.
And they kept that in both games. So Advance Wars 1, he's crazy. 2, he's a little nerfed. And then like when you play multiplayer, I don't know if anybody played multiplayer, you can kind of like select like, hey, I want Advance Wars 1 Max, or hey, I want Advance Wars 2.
Cool. That's cool. That's cool.
Like that. Because there's
basically stronger and slightly weaker.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. My kind of like closing thoughts on that. Like, the way we put it earlier is that like it is a very pick up and play game, and I don't usually do that. There are very few like exceptions to that rule, but I can see myself going back to this simply because of how pretty it is, and it is difficult, but it's somehow extremely simple at the same time. Like, I don't think
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's a lot to it in terms of like things to confuse you. I would say there's a lot of like units you have to understand. Like, just like I was just playing like a half hour before I started recording. I didn't know you could carry people in the little things that you deploy ammo to people, like those
Yeah, the
little.
APCs.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know you could put people in there because I just
What
fucking
a
mad
I was
clicked
gonna
that.
say, what
So,
a legit good
Well,
but
and
story.
then
so I had just assumed that was only like the helicopters or whatever. So then I accidentally loaded one up and I went, son of a bitch. That would have been
How many of
very
those? I was gonna
helpful.
say,
Again,
how
it's
many
my
of
own
those
fault.
30
yeah.
turn missions could have been
Yeah.
over in
But
like
yeah,
10?
so
Yeah.
I just recently discovered that and I was like, well, that made things a lot easier for me on that one, but
Yep.
okay, whatever.
I'm with you. Like, I don't know if anyone here's played a lot of Fire Emblem. I have not.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you might be able to speak to this better, Al, because there's very similar intelligent systems made Advance Wars and
Mhm.
Fire Emblem. I
We
would
literally
like
would
for
not
them
have
to,
Fire Emblem in today if it wasn't for Advance Wars.
yeah, I would love for them to go back and give Advance Wars another shot, or Way Forward to continue
Mhm.
it, or somebody else, honestly. But yeah, like the minute details of like the simplicity of this, but the complexity of like,
Oh
so
yeah.
later on you'll get landers, which are like APCs for water, right? Where you can
Yep.
throw airships on them. You can throw
Wait,
a
they go in the water, but they're called landers?
Because
yeah,
that's the boat.
because they go on the beaches and then drop
Yeah.
off units to like cross water.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
So APCs can only hold like one unit. You only go through like one
Sure.
army man or one mech
Mhm.
unit or something like that. Landers can hold two, so you can throw like a
Mm.
jet fighter on there and then an APC with a mech unit in there. So it's like
Yep.
you can really stack it up. And again, it's like super crazy. That's why I like playing this game, because I'm not good at strategy games. And so yeah, when I get my butt kicked and then I'm like, okay, I'm learning here, and then figuring out like it's such a good feeling.
And I
One
think
of
that's
Go ahead.
oh good. I was just gonna say I think that's just intelligent systems at work because Fire Emblem's that same way because they have that how much like this or Advance Wars has like okay this unit beats this unit, but Fire Emblem they have like a kind of like a weapons triangle, so we're like swords beat axes and axes beat lance. I'm not beginning that order mixed up, but essentially that triangle.
Like rock,
Rock,
paper,
paper,
scissors.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. And not quite to that simplistic in this game, but it has kind of that effect of like, okay, this unit beats this and this unit beats this. And that's just intelligent systems at work because I mean, I'm like you guys, I'm not huge into the turn-based strategy games, but I love me some Advance Wars. I love me some Fire Emblem.
I think it's always a testament to a game where like the systems are laid out to you like in a smart manner. Not that they're convoluted, but they know what they're doing when they're
Yeah.
explaining these things to you. And then what I enjoy about that is like you're like, I wonder if I can do this, and then you just do it, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like that's really
Yep.
cool. You know what I mean? Like they kind of just give you a little nudge on how to properly use something, and then you kind of discover more ways to actually use that, and then but that's just spelled out to you in a way that you discover that on your own, and that's what I think. Like they understand what they're doing. Like I get it, and like
And see,
well done.
And see, that's why I love Advance Wars Dual Strike, kind of getting into, if they could get back into maybe even just remaking that game.
Sure.
Because what was cool about that game is, because DS Dual Strike, you got to use two COs at the same time.
Yeah.
So you could combine their powers.
Combine powers.
Like
yeah.
it's like double dash.
Yeah.
Not really, but I mean kind of.
Yeah.
The double dash of Advanced Wars.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like
right
yeah. So with that, like you could combine Max and Grit, and like one's really good.
Max Grit.
Like one's really good like up close, and then one's good with range, and then if you combine those you kind of can cover they can cover each other's weakness, or you can go really hard in it. Yeah, so yeah, Dual Strike's great.
Okay, I am gonna ask Alex score, but I feel like Jordan was a little quiet. I don't want to have him feel left out. Is there any last thoughts you want to share, Jordan?
I mean,
like
no,
me myself moderating, and then Brett and Alec, how they are kind of like have history with the title. Yeah. So I just want to give Jordan a chance here.
No, I mean, I'd say I agree with everything Alec just said. I would say the only thing is I get what the game is doing, and I like it. I just sometimes wish I didn't always have to be playing chess, if that makes sense. I do wish that Alec and Austin, you'll understand this comparison. I wish sometimes it was gameplay Pokemon and not competitive Pokemon, where I can kind of kind of, if I do the right things, just brute my way through it and just not really think, be like, hey, let me move these tanks here. And then maybe like switch up my strategy halfway through. I wish there was kind of.
There's some at the beginning, I would
the
say.
Beginning, definitely, because I think the beginning is for a good reason. Definitely easier. Now that like I've been stuck on this one and I'm just like, well, I miss winning. So I tried to do like the just fight the CPUs and I was doing fine, but I was like, oh, like I am having to be like, well, they'll counter with this and that. And I kind of just want to, sometimes I wish there was like a casual mode. I don't mean like the difficulty, but like literally just a more casual, just do this. If you can
almost
kind
like
of brute way
like
through it.
Like a god mode, but only for like one turn or something. I don't know. Just something where
not even that. I just wish that like it was occasionally easier so I can like not always try and like think about it.
It's hard with that only in the sense of like some of those missions are like, hey, we're gonna like make you feel pain to like teach you this lesson.
Yeah, no, very much.
Like
especially with like the earlier ones where not only is there a set of tutorials happening and kind of happening for a reason, but there's also a narrative, so I get that.
Like would you say that's more of a you thing rather than this game, Jordan?
Absolutely. This is just me wanting to see the win screen more than the lose screen on occasion. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So for me with that, Jordan, like I just like whenever kind of what I said at the beginning, like I just like I'm in turn 6 and I'm just like, I don't feel good about this. I'm like, all right, restart. Like just being okay with failure. Cause initially I was like, I want to get all S ranks. And then I would get like a B. I'm like, oh crap. And then I get a C. I'm like, all right, like where's it? Like, so it's all about learning. So, yeah, I don't know. It's the game, like not even it's the first combat level where like he is like super aggressive on that fight. And I was like, well, I'm usually like conservative. I want to be aggressive this time. And that like didn't pay off. Like you're supposed to be conservative at that level. And I was like, okay, like now I know in this kind of scenario with these mountains, boom, I can make this move and then win against an aggressive opponent like that. So it just made me like rewire my brain in a way that like, instead of just, but again, that's like, sometimes it's fun to just crush people.
Yeah. I guess the best way I could explain it, sorry, Austin, is just like I wish there was like a mobile phone version where it's like, hey, you're waiting.
Don't say that. No.
I don't literally mean like, oh, port this to my iPhone. But like,
hey, Fire Emblem Heroes, good mobile game.
I guess.
Fair. But I kind of just like, oh, hey, like, you've got nothing to do at work or at like this for this moment, or you're waiting for your Uber. Just like, quick games, you feel good about yourself, you go on. I wish that was like, let's make that a mode.
You were talking about how like you wish it was a little easier, and then Brett was kind of like, if you just stick to it and be okay with failure. I did that like I said earlier in like the wrong way. Like I got a D on that mission I brought up, and I am so proud of that goddamn D because I didn't give up.
Because you beat it. You're
so
done.
proud of that D.
You're
I was like,
oh
yes,
dude,
fuck you.
It's like college where like there's one class where I'm like, this is the most proud of a C I've ever been in my life.
You know what? You're right. I get it.
C's get degrees.
C's get degrees.
So do D's, man. D's.
That's why I dropped out.
It doesn't rhyme though.
No, I actually passed like my final semester. I was just tired of college.
Jordan,
don't do it.
Jordan, I have a question for you. So since you're new to Advance Wars a little bit, would you buy another game? Would you buy a sequel, another Advance Wars game?
I would like keep my eyes peeled for it, and like if it's a true Advance Wars games, the chances of it being yes are much higher than like the next game in this genre. And I might check out Dual Strike and what was the other one on
Days of Ruin.
Days of Ruin. I might check those out. Like I have a phone, I have a 3DS with custom firmware. I don't care. I'll admit it. Come get me, Nintendo.
Get him.
Did any of you guys play Wargroove?
I bought it.
I checked it out. I didn't get too far into it.
Yeah, I think it came out in like 2019. I bought it and I didn't finish it, but I played a good bit of it. That's
also Way Forward. Am I wrong?
I don't think so.
Oh, is this the one that just had its sequel revealed a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. It's very Advance Wars inspired, but with a few differences where like there's a commander unit on the battle, basically your CO on the battle as like your super unit, stuff like that. So I wonder if you would check that out and see if you'd like that better or not.
It was fairly successful too. So
Yeah,
like, it did pretty well. So.
For a bit.
I think definitely what I'll probably do at some point is play Pokemon Conquest.
Yes, there
Let me
you
know
go.
how that is. I've heard good things.
What's funny is like after I like had that little taste of Advanced Wars when it was first announced, I then did like the first 2 or 3 levels of Pokemon Conquest. So like I liked it enough. I just think that there was a few. I was surprised that they each only get 1 move. I thought it'd be like, oh, they still get 4, but it's just more strategic in how you move them.
Sure. Pokemon Conquest 2 coming in 2025.
All right. What is everyone's favorite unit? What's your favorite unit?
Medium tank. Oh my god.
Let's go.
Medium tank is good, but medium tank is good, but also like the missiles. Like if you could use the missiles right, it's just fun.
Oh yeah,
missiles, the rockets. Yep. I love the rockets. Yeah, you position them as soon as they cross like a bridge or something. You're just like.
I had one that I swear to God it wasn't working properly because like I would like go up to it and move it and it like its like range was like nothing and I'm like what is happening? So then I moved it
playing as Max.
back.
Were you Max? Yeah, like he's
no.
like his range.
No, I was Andy. I was Andy.
Was it a missile launcher? Missiles can only attack.
Was airships. It a snowstorm?
No, it was facing the green guy. That's all the information I have.
Eagle.
The thing, what I'm getting at is like I was holding, or I had the unit in a certain spot. I looked at the range; it looked like shitty. I moved it back, and the range was bigger. And I don't know why or how this happened, but I equate it to me. I probably did something wrong. Okay, I am stupid. But before we talk more about nonsense, Alec, what are you giving this game as a score?
I'm giving this an 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, Brett, Jordan, what do we think about that score? Seem right?
I think that's perfectly fair. Yeah, the originals, like the reviews are like 85 to low 90s, so that feels right, just about right. Because I feel like they did translate the game very faithfully, and then a lot of the things that they did better, I think, is fantastic with like the OST and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Jordan,
I'd say that sounds about right. I mean, I feel like it's an 8, but the pun of the reboot is so good. It's like, yeah, give it that extra half a point for reboot camp because that in turn got a fucking raise.
I remember when they announced it, I was like, "That's a good name. That's a good name. I like it."
Yeah.
So my follow up question to that is, let's say Alec was like, "I'm giving it a 7." What are our thoughts on that? He's not giving it a 7. He's giving it 8.5. I'm just curious. Can we see a 7? Like, does it seem like the game that could get that kind of reaction from a reviewer? I'm curious.
Only in the sense of like strategy games aren't your bag.
Oh, you really think like it has to be not of your genre?
I think so because I think everything in this game is at least of good to excellent quality. So if you don't like it, it's just because you don't like the gameplay elements. Because again, that like if you're not good at strategy games, like you get your ass
kicked,
you're
gonna have a bad time.
And you're like, I'm like, yeah, because like some like you play this game and then you play something like Fortnite or whatever, and you can just walk around and not think, right? Like that's fun too. But this game like really makes you think. Like you really have to know what you're doing, especially if you're playing on classic difficulty, let alone like hard. So it kind of I think that's kind of what you're saying, Jordan, where like the game isn't meeting you where you want to be at sometimes.
Yeah, like this has never been my style of game, but the reason why I'd say I'm more on the side of the 8.5 rather than the 7 is I'm aware that this isn't my usual type of game, but the art style is beautiful. The content that I don't know what's added and what's changed and what's has been there every time, but knowing that there's a map editor and there's against computers and now you could verse people online, which that I'm going to assume is not a feature that was on the original GBA cartridge.
No matchmaking, I will say. It has to be against friends.
Oh, it's private only.
Yep.
Yeah, which
unfortunately,
again, that sucks. Obviously, but like I don't play these games for the multiplayer. Sure. I always played them to play the story, and then with strategy games too. Like you brought up chess. Like you're playing against yourself in some ways in terms of like figuring out your own limitations and your own like weaknesses and strategies, stuff like that. So that's what I play it for. So I wasn't too broken up about that, but obviously it does suck. It should be included. And if you really want to, you can go on LFG groups and find people to play with. There's Advanced Wars by web too that you can play on a browser and stuff like that too. So
that's awesome.
yeah,
Jordan, I would say that since you aren't a fan of like the original games, that you saying that it reaches an 8.5, that makes sense, is honestly like even more of a testament to the title. Because I'm not saying Alec and and Brett are biased, but I think it's easier for them to say 8.5. I think there's something to that, I think. So
yeah, there's something about it, like bringing up the Fire Emblem comparison again, that like, because with Fire Emblem there's like a lot more like social stuff, right, with like dating and I don't know, like marriage and stuff like that.
Relationships,
yeah. Whereas Advance Wars,
Advance
Wars is just, hey, you're fighting. So I do kind of like what you're talking
Wait,
about.
I don't get to bang the girl with the wrench and the crop top at some point.
I think she's like 16, bro.
Oh Jesus Christ, Brett! Why would you? Motherfucker.
Well, that'll be our review, folks. All right. Thank you for joining in. This has been wonderful. We give this title an 8.5. If you liked it, comment down below. What score would you give Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp? Check out our reviews on coming. And what else do we have on the horizon, Alec?
As this will be posting Saturday, we're going to be having a D&D character creation stream. So come and check that out. That's going to be at 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
You heard it first.
Yeah.
See us there on that stream Saturday, 5:30 Eastern. I think that's what he said. All right. Thank you for watching. Jordan is naughty. Bye.